Hey guys, it's Coach Gaglione from GaglioneStrength.com and SupremeStrengthForSports.com, the proven system to develop maximal strength with minimal equipment. I got a question from the Twitters today from my man Chris Barracat. Chris had a question about deloading. It's a common question that I get quite often, so I just wanted to address it so you guys can also benefit from my answer to Chris. So his question was something to the effect of like how you do use deload your own training and stuff like that. So I'll kind of just answer it in a general sense, and I'll also let you guys know what my answer would be for other specific situations. So the first thing I would just let you guys know, you got to understand what kind of situation you're in. Most people really honestly do not need to worry about a deload, especially if you're not a competitive athlete. A lot of people get a little too crazy about the science and stuff, and most people, honestly, they don't put in enough work anyway. They're not that consistent. So if you're one of those, the rare, 1%, probably even less than 1% of the population that never misses their workouts, then you can kind of worry about the deload a little bit more. But in general, most people kind of create the deload themselves. Like, for example, in Long Island, Hurricane Sandy happened, so a lot of people, I'm sure, probably didn't get to the gym or skipped their training or took off from their nutrition. Guess what? That's the deload. You don't need a deload if you just took a whole week off from training from that. If you go on vacation, if the holidays are coming, so whatever it is. So that's kind of like your natural deload. Doesn't mean you have to, like for me, for example, I don't really take off during the holidays. I like to actually use it as a little boost and give myself a little extra training during those times if I know I'm going to be eating excess calories and stuff like that. So I like to actually get an extra training during the holidays. But like I said, that's not like the normal average person. So a lot of times the deload is not planned, and it just happens. So if you're one of the rare few that are consistent 100% of the time, then good for you. Then we'll kind of talk a little bit further. The second thing to consider is just something that's kind of been a hot topic in the industry lately. It's just called auto-regulation, which simply means just kind of listening to your body. If you feel really good that day, then maybe turn up the notch a little bit. Maybe it was supposed to be a deload week on your program, but if you're feeling good, man, take advantage of that and throw a couple extra pounds on, do a couple extra reps, a couple extra sets, add in some more volume, whatever it is. Take advantage of when you're feeling good. If you're feeling shitty, take it easy that day. Maybe you cut down on the weight. Maybe you eliminate your primary exercise and just do assistance work. A lot of times, like, a deload doesn't necessarily mean just do absolutely nothing. So that's a big mistake. Make sure you do something. There's always something you can do to get better. I get really mad when people are like, oh, I'm tired, I'm this and that. Even if you just come in and do some mobility work, some soft tissue, and work on some weak areas, that's better than just sitting home and doing nothing a lot of times. Sometimes, people think, oh, I'm just going to just do nothing, and it actually, you get worse and you get weaker instead of stronger. So I much prefer an active recovery, an active deload, than just being completely dormant when you take some time off. So the other thing to consider, if you're a competitive athlete, so this is where the real answer kind of begins, and not just kind of like the rants. So let's say you are a competitive athlete. So let's say you're in season. These guys could be training 5 to 6 times a week, sometimes even more, not including competition. So they're going to be training multiple times a day. Sometimes they're going to be doing strength training and their skill work, and then they also got to worry about competing. So for competitive athletes and guys that are working on their skills year-round, even if they're not in season, I like to deload every 4th week. And that just kind of gives your body a chance, again, to kind of rest a little bit and recover, and then you can go a little bit harder the next cycle. But again, when we deload our athletes, I don't even tell them it's a deload. We just kind of just cut down the volume a little bit, cut down the intensity. It's just less sets, less reps, and less weight. Now, if I have some athletes that aren't as committed as others, we will not deload them, because if they missed a couple of days here and there, well, that was their deload again. So, but for those guys who are really consistent, we say, we have a lot of wrestlers, so they're going to wrestling clubs, they have wrestling practice, they're doing maybe some extra cardio stuff on their own. Whatever it is, those guys are going to need a break every now and then. And it's really important to communicate. If you're a coach, you communicate with your athletes on how they're feeling, and not only how they're feeling, but also read their body language. A lot of times, the really tough guys will not tell you they're tired or hurt or banged up, and you got to just kind of like look at, does the bar do they look explosive? Is their form like normal? Are they doing weird things? So you got to look at that and look at the expression on their face. Are they fired up and ready to get going? Because sometimes you may need to extend the warm-up and maybe extend the warm-up even into their workout and in between their primary work sets, use some fillers, work on some corrective stuff, whatever it may be. So as far as with myself, I'm not a competitive athlete. I just enjoy lifting weights for fun. When do I deload? Well, there's a couple of times. I don't even deload or take some time off after a contest. I usually take some time off if I get hurt. So if I physically can't do something, and then if I'm hurt, I will train body parts that are uninjured. So that's one reason. And just like right before a contest, so like in November 17th, I'm doing a deadlift only competition. So next week I'm going to take it easy on my training. I'm not going to really do too much. I'm not going to do nothing, but after like Wednesday, I'm just going to focus on some mobility and feel good for the competition. And then I'll actually probably go a little bit off my diet for now, and then get back on in a week or so. Just I'll be utilizing carb backloading for a week instead of carb night. So you could deload from your diet too. That's another thing, not just your training. And sometimes you need that in order to kind of just get your metabolism going again. So that's just something else to consider. So I hope that answers your question. Again, just to recap, most people don't worry about a deload. You just got to train as hard as possible, be consistent, work hard. Most of the time, just listen to your body. Don't worry about planning it. If you're a competitive athlete, well, then I would recommend you seek out a strength and conditioning coach in your area. Like Gaglione Strength in here. If you're on Long Island, if you're not on Long Island, kind of look for those that have similar views and similar thoughts as kind of like what we're preaching right now. So if you're an athlete, make sure that you're communicating with your coach and you're telling them how you're feeling constantly. And then if you say you're a bodybuilder, you do bodybuilding competitions. Like I know, like Chris, who asked the question, he does bodybuilding shows and stuff. Your deload is going to be right after the show. And if you're feeling beat up, just take a little time off, maybe just go a little bit easier. But the key thing here, guys, when you deload, always do something to get better. Don't just use it as an excuse to do nothing. Because we got plenty of people, man, that are sitting on their couch and doing jack shit. So don't be one of those guys. Always strive to be better, even if it's just maybe not be what you planned, but you just give the best effort you can for that day. So my boy Anthony Vidal, he said this at one of my first seminars. He kind of says, whatever's in your gas tank, you want to just use whatever's in your gas tank. So if you have a full gas tank, man, then you should be cranking put the pedal to the metal and be going full tilt that training session. If you got a half a tank, well, you should only give maybe 50% effort, and you gotta save a little bit, so you got a little bit left in the tank for next time. Because if you're running on an empty and you only got fumes left, man, well, that's a problem, and you're going to be running yourself into the ground, and ultimately you're not going to be getting anywhere if you're running on empty. So kind of just think of it like the gas analogy. You want to conserve a little bit in the tank, but if you got a full tank, man, utilize that, man. Go as far as you can with that tank. So this video is getting too long, so I'm going to cut it there, guys. I hope this answered your question, Chris. I hope you're doing well. If you need anything, drop me a message. For everyone else, make sure you check out gaglionestrength.com and sign up for our newsletter for more updates. And if you guys have any questions, I always will answer them. Even if it takes me a little bit, I do my best. I read all the questions. You could send me an email to gaglionestrength@gmail.com or drop a comment below. Thanks, guys, and I'll talk to you soon. Stay strong.